Hello, everyone. This is Carolyn reading to you from the Providence Journal on Tuesday, October 7th. As always, we'll start today with the local weather. Today will be a partly sunny day, highs of 77 degrees and lows of 64 degrees. It will be breezy with increasing clouds. It'll be humid tonight and a couple of showers later on. Tomorrow, October 8th, will also be a rainy day with highs of 68 degrees and lows of 45 degrees. Thursday, October 9th, will be a sunny day, breezy in the morning with highs of 59 degrees and lows of 38 degrees. Friday, October 10th, will be another day with plenty of sunshine. Highs will be 62 degrees and lows 47 degrees. And finally, on Saturday, October 11th, it will be becoming cloudier with highs of 65 degrees and lows of 51 degrees. And next today, we'll go to our front page local story. The first story is called A Gem in the Rough. Artist brings new life to polluted industrial waterfront. This story is written by Antonia Nori Farzan, Providence Journal, USA Today Network. This summer, artist Eli Nixon encouraged people to visit a tiny sliver of public waterfront off industrial Allens Avenue, quote, between the Salt Mountain and the Rust Heap, end quote. The public street right-of-way, where a pothole-cracked road gives way to a narrow rocky beach and the murky, contaminated Providence River, isn't the most welcoming piece of Rhode Island's coastline. But Nixon sees it as this beautiful, toxic, complicated little gem of a slit to the rest of the world. It feels very much like the only area of South Providence where you can actually see how you're connected to the rest of this world through all this water, and where you can bring your kids and sit there and enjoy the view of boats coming in and out, said Nixon, who uses they/them pronouns. At the same time, every time I left, my throat would burn, my eyes would hurt, my nose would sting, they added. With city permission and help from a team of friends and collaborators, Nixon temporarily erected a thatched, open-air hut that provided seating and shade for visitors. Large, colorful windsocks gave the space a festive feel, while also conveying a serious message about air quality alerts. And clay sculptures of salt marsh sparrows served as a reminder that the urban coastline wasn't always dominated by scrapyards and oil tanks. I can imagine other ways forward because I can imagine what it used to be like, said Nixon, who is perhaps best known for Blood Tide, a proposal to create an annual holiday honoring horseshoe crabs. Remembering that the polluted industrial landscape was once a mudflat or salt marsh can create more space inside of ourselves to remember that it could be something other than an asphalt-covered wasteland, they said. Nixon's project was sponsored by the Providence Commemoration Lab, a collaboration between the Providence Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism and the Rhode Island Historical Society. funded by American Rescue Plan Act dollars and a grant from the Mellon Foundation. The Commemoration Lab stages new temporary projects on public property that invite unexpected ways of understanding commemoration as a communal process of historical redress and spatial reclamation, according to its website. Nixon was among the artists assigned to Public Street and focused on the coastal right-of-way at its eastern terminus. Their goal was to encourage people to access Narragansett Bay and fight for better air and water quality, especially in South Providence and Washington Park, where residents contend with emissions from diesel trucks and tanker ships at the Port of Providence, dust and smoke from scrapyards, and the occasional industrial fire. They're expected to live with air quality that the rest of the city wouldn't stand for, Nixon said. Nixon worked with Newhouse, which specializes in inflatable art installations, to create vividly colored windsocks that would correspond with air quality ratings. They also teamed up with activists from People's Port Authority, who encouraged visitors to download the Smell My City app and collect crowdsourced data about noxious odors. Bringing people to the water's edge. Initially, Nixon envisioned constructing a giant floating dock, a U-shaped underwater tunnel, or a pair of 12-person waders that would allow people to walk out into the Providence River in a floating ring. But the city's insurance policy wouldn't allow any of that, they said. Every great idea that I had received 1 million no's, Nixon said. Ultimately, they settled on building a shade structure that would provide protection from the blistering sun along Allen's Avenue, as well as what People's Port Authority organizer Ellen Tuzzolo described as hot garbage water, mist that rains down on the right-of-way when Sims Metal sprays down its scrap heap. With help from friends and volunteers, they harvested invasive Phragmites from local wetlands and wove a thatched roof that references the area's original native salt marshes and mud flats. Students from the Community College of Rhode Island's Liston campus added hand-painted signs with phrases like, "Welcome to Public Street Beach." To bring the space to life, Nixon threw public parties with popsicles and a pedicab DJ. They helped arrange a parade for members of the Columbia Park Crows, an all-gender youth basketball team who marched down to the public street right-of-way, accompanied by giant crow puppets and the Blackout Drum Squad. People hung out until after sunset and enjoyed connecting with each other, connecting with the water, said Tuzzolo, who has a child on the team and counted 140 people in attendance. It was really an incredible community event. Nixon also posted flyers all over the neighborhood, inviting people to hang out. Visitors seemed to appreciate the shade structure, they said, but some saw the changes and worried that they were going to lose access to the right-of-way. There was a fair amount of assuring people that this was temporary, but it certainly was for everyone, Nixon said. plan previously proposed to turn Public Street Row into park. During the COVID-19 lockdown, as people looked for ways to get outside, community activists discovered that the end of Public Street was blocked off. Linda Perry, the president of the Washington Park Neighborhood Association, and Monica Hortez, the executive director of the People's Port Authority, fought to get it reopened. The Coastal Resources Management Council formally designated it as a shoreline right-of-way in 2021. This is not the ideal spot, but it's the only place we have, Hertis said. There was talk of turning the right-of-way into a more park-like space. The Providence Department of Sustainability commissioned landscape architect Fatima Maswood to survey residents about their needs and come up with preliminary recommendations, which included adding seating, better lighting, an accessible walkway, and native plants. That vision hasn't become a reality yet, but Hertis remains hopeful. Nixon, who credited Maswood with introducing them to the public street right-of-way, said the city just needs to listen to the community feedback that it solicited. People want shade. People want to hang out and not be burnt to death. People want better air quality. People want more green infrastructure, they said. Nixon plans to continue to advocate to clean up the area around the Port of Providence, but had to remove the shade structure at the end of September because the city's insurance policy was running out. It will move to a community garden, they said. Being an artist can be both a blessing and a curse, they reflected. People will let you do a lot of weird stuff because they know it's out there for only a little while. And there's a picture that accompanies this story on the front page of today's Providence Journal. The picture is of the public street, and the caption reads, "Colorful windsocks fly over the public street right-of-way on July 28th. The goal of the project was to encourage people to access Narragansett Bay and fight for better air and water quality." Our next story in today's Providence Journal is entitled Possible Remedies to Combat Absenteeism. This story is written by Nish Kohli, Providence Journal, USA Today Network. School attendance has taken a hit nationwide since the pandemic, and Rhode Island is no exception. Governor Dan McKee and State Education Commissioner Angelica Infante Green homed in on attendance reform 2 years ago when they launched a campaign called Attendance Matters, Rhode Island. Although schools have seen some improvements under the initiative that tracks data, incentivizes attendance with prizes, encourages parents and community members to get involved, and has strict penalties for absences, excused or unexcused, barriers such as transportation issues, unsupportive learning environments, and mental health challenges persist. During the 2024-2025 school year, 22.5% of Rhode Island students were chronically absent, meaning they missed at least 18 days of school, or 10% of the school year. The rate has gradually trickled down since the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when more than a third of all students were chronically absent. But it has yet to return to the pre-pandemic levels that hovered closer to 18 and 19%. Chronic absenteeism is a huge challenge for the country as a whole, explained Hedy Chang, Executive Director of Attendance Works, an organization that seeks to address the problem throughout the United States. Whatever you do, relationships are the single most important thing. When you improve school climate and relationships, then you can motivate kids who have barriers to show up to school, even when it's tough. It's through relationships that you can debunk myths that might lead kids to think they don't need to be in school. What drives school absences? One of the most common causes of absence is sickness. Health conditions, including asthma and dental or vision problems, are the primary impetus among kindergarten through third grade children, noted Paige Parks, Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count. Some researchers have considered that parents may be taking illness more seriously since the pandemic, opting to keep their children home for minor symptoms. Others theorize that families became accustomed to relaxed attendance expectations during the pandemic, and that online learning tools may have shifted perceptions about how important it is for students to be physically present in school. Another root cause is an aversion to school, whether that's due to bullying, academic struggles, or an unwelcoming school environment. Some students feel bored or unmotivated to attend if the curriculum isn't engaging, or if they see little opportunity for enrichment. That definitely impacts older kids' desires and willingness to be in school, said Parks. Is there anyone there that's going to miss them? That can be a motivating factor to get kids up and out to school every day if they know there's a teacher or staff member who's going to ask them every day, "How are you? Is everything okay? I'm proud of you." Malia Odom, a senior at Central High School in Providence, agreed, saying that school is hard for students dealing with loneliness, anxiety, or depression, and it's just a whole lot of pressure. During the 2024-2025 school year in Rhode Island, more than 1 in 3 high schoolers reported feeling sad or hopeless, and nearly 1 in 6 said they had seriously considered suicide. If you're younger and little, you might not be able to explain what you're anxious about. You just have a stomach ache, so mom and dad might be inclined to keep kids home, said Chang. By the time you go into middle or high school, maybe you can't keep up with everyone, and your lack of academic achievement can make you embarrassed to show up. Attendance issues can also stem from housing or food insecurity, family responsibilities, having a job, instability at home, difficulty accessing items such as clean clothes, and the physical barriers of getting to school. In Providence, students rely on public transit to get to school if it's too far to walk and their parents can't drive them. Bus passes are only offered to students who live a mile or more away from their schools, disregarding some pedestrians' concerns about road safety and access, even if the distance to school is under a mile. At a community meeting of more than 100 people hosted by Our Schools PVD last year, participants expressed concerns about school transportation throughout the session, arguing that all Providence students should be eligible for bus passes. By car, Odom only lives about 10 minutes away from her school, but because she takes public transit, she spends 45 minutes to an hour commuting each way. She has to take 2 buses and transfer at Kennedy Plaza, so timing it right is important, or she might arrive tardy. One of the buses that Odom relies on used to show up roughly every 30 minutes. Since the RIPTA service cuts went into effect in September, the bus's frequency has been reduced to once an hour. What's at stake for chronically absent students? Chronic absence is a strong predictor of difficulty with reading and of graduating from high school. Children living in poverty are 2 to 3 times more likely to be chronically absent, factoring into the effects of wealth inequality on long-term educational achievement and future opportunities. The latest data from the Rhode Island Department of Education showed that students who were not chronically absent performed twice as well in math and English language arts testing as those who were chronically absent. In Rhode Island, children who are chronically absent in kindergarten are more than twice as likely to be held back, and research has also found a correlation between chronic absenteeism in early childhood and impacts on executive function. Chronic absenteeism is more prevalent in urban school districts and occurred among 29.3% of students in the Providence Public School District last year. Data also suggests that students with disabilities, English language learners, and students of color are disproportionately affected. Our next local news story today is entitled Boston Police. 2 Rhode Island men arrested after police cruiser burned. This story was written by Mark Reynolds, Providence Journal, USA Today Network. 2 Rhode Island men were part of a large crowd that attacked police officers at an early morning scene in Boston's South End, where fireworks also torched and destroyed a police cruiser, Boston police said on Sunday, October 5th. Both an 18-year-old Cumberland man and a 19-year-old Warwick man were arrested when police went to the intersection of Massachusetts Avenue and Tremont Street to deal with what a news release described as a large-scale vehicle takeover and fierce resistance from a group of more than 100 people at about 2:12 a.m. on Sunday. The term vehicle takeover refers to a type of street event where people perform stunts with motor vehicles. When police officers arrived to enforce the law in the South End, people threw fireworks, cones, poles, and other objects, police said. CBS News quoted Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox talking about street racing. There's a lot of folks that come from all over to do these illegal street racing in not only our city, but throughout the country, CBS quoted Cox saying, "This is just not going to be tolerated." The intersection itself, police said, was blocked off by several vehicles, police say, which had prevented normal traffic flow. Fireworks repeatedly hit a marked Boston police cruiser, which caught fire. At one point, rioters jumped onto the hood of the police cruiser. Police officers from across the city were dispatched to the area where they dispersed the crowd. Firefighters extinguished the burning cruiser, which was destroyed by flames and towed away. A focus on 2 men from Rhode Island. Later, the police news release declared that 2 people had been arrested, saying that the 18-year-old from Cumberland, who was seen throwing objects at officers and their cruiser, tried to run away, but was captured. The 19-year-old Warwick man was seen repeatedly striking a cruiser with an orange pole. Both men faced charges of malicious destruction of property over $1,200, disorderly conduct, assault and battery on a police officer, and resisting arrest. The 19-year-old from Warwick also faces a charge of marijuana possession. The arraignment of both men is expected in District Court, Roxbury. And our final story today, Providence police investigate 4 stabbings in pair of incidents. This story was written by Mark Reynolds. Injuries to 4 people involved in 2 different weekend knifing incidents in Providence are non-life-threatening, the police said on Sunday, October 5th. In the first case, police arrived at a scene on Hanover Street near Cranston to find a person on the ground with multiple stab wounds at 11:50 p.m. Friday night, said a police spokeswoman, Christy Dos Reis. Then, not far away on Messer Street, police found a second person with stab wounds to his back, she said. A witness told police that 2 men had stabbed each other, police said. Also, the witness told investigators that a 3rd person had struck one of those men with a bottle and left the area, police say. Soon after, on Broad Street, police saw someone who matched the description provided by the witness. The person was taken to Central Station for further investigation. In another separate incident at 1:28 p.m. on October 4th, officers arrived at the gas station on Benefit Street to find one person with stab wounds in the abdomen and to the forearm. This has been Carolyn reading to you from the Providence Journal on Tuesday, October 7th. I hope you all have a wonderful day.